Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. This webinar is an interview with Dr. Scott Baird. My name is Andrew Townsend. I'm an eLearning evangelist here at eLearning Brothers. We are also joined by the project manager for eLearning Brothers Customizable Courseware, Chris Willis. So thank you both for coming. We're happy to have you here with us.
Thanks, Andrew.
We have people online who are ready to answer questions, so feel free to use that questions panel. And if we have some time at the end, we'll try to take a few of those questions in front of Dr. Baird and Chris Willis. By way of introduction, Dr. Scott Baird is the author of the Griffin Hill Sales System. He's had over 35 years of business performance research and consulting experience, and with a rare blend of art and science brought together under the umbrella of human performance technology, he's made the Griffin Hill Sales System uniquely effective. Chris Willis is the Senior Product Manager over eLearning Brothers Customizable Courseware. She's had more than 20 years experience as an eLearning entrepreneur, speaker, and consultant. Her enterprise sales training experience makes Chris uniquely qualified to help make the Griffin Hill Sales System available to you as eLearning Brothers Customizable Courseware. So we've brought these two amazing and intelligent people together to make an amazing product inside of the eLearning Brothers Customizable Courseware. So today, let's talk about the Griffin Hill Sales System. Dr. Baird, can you tell us a little about where that system comes from?
Yeah, Andrew, as a human performance scientist and consultant to industry and enterprise, we did a lot of great strategic planning work with our clients, and at the end of the day, they all had the same observation. Oh, this is terrific. I've got one more question. Can you tell me how to lead and manage salespeople? Because it's like herding cats. I have no idea how to do this. And so out of that was born our work in sales and sales structures and systems.
Can you tell us a little bit of how it was developed?
Yeah, you know, Andrew, it's interesting because as those questions came, it becomes really tempting to simply go to the existing pop literature and rehash it all and then vomit it back. But as a classically trained research scientist, that just was not an option for me. So for me, it had to be good scientific design to come up with the right solution rather than ideas that were out there in the marketplace. And so for me, it was a matter of doing a very serious research project. So it included in-field research. We had more than 3,500 salespeople, more than 140,000 sales cases, and more than 450,000 selling interactions in our field research. It also included buyer research. And the reason we had to do the buyer research is what we learned about from 3,500 salespeople is they didn't know why they were good. These were the top 1% of performers, and when we asked them, tell us why you're so good, they had such conflicting answers that they really stood in stark opposition. So we had to go to their buyers and say, why do you like the way John Jones sells? He tells us he's successful because of this. And buyers would say, John's an idiot. He has no reason why, he has no idea why we buy from him. We hate that about him. But what we really love is, and then buyers would tell us what they liked. And then we also relied on the scientific literature. What does the science teach us about persuasion and about performance? And so it's really those three pieces, Andrew, that came together to create the Griffin Hill Sales System: field research, buyer surveys, and the scientific literature. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, yes. It sounds really big, really robust. Why did you develop such a robust system?
Oh, I love that question. It is robust, Andrew. You nailed it. You're exactly right. You are, as advertised, brilliant because it relies on systems. This is not a matter of simply tips and tricks. It's systems. We are all the subject of the systems we employ. You know, we don't think about this, but you know, here's a quote that I love. I love great performers. As a human performance scientist, I study their lives. One of the great performers that I so admire is George Washington. I think Washington Irving's work, 5-volume set on the life of George Washington, is telling. Talking about his boyhood when he was 8 to 12 years old, Washington Irving wrote of him that he was meticulous in creating systems. He says this: he had acquired the magic of method, which of itself works wonders. And that's true of all of our lives. For good or ill, wherever we are, it's the direct result of the systems that we employ. And so rather than simply offer tips and tricks to our clients, they expected robust from us. And that meant a complete system that produced reliable results, rapid, substantial, and sustainable. And that doesn't happen without a system.
That's amazing. It's so big. I mean, I've looked at the Griffin Hill Sales System, and it has everything, like you said, something that really brings credibility to that system, because it's well thought out, well planned, and built out. So, Chris, we have Chris with us today. What appealed to you about this sales system? Why the Griffin Hill Sales System in the eLearning Brothers Customizable Courseware instead of something else?
So we have a lot of customers at eLearning Brothers. They use our templates, they use our other library of customizable courseware, and they're coming to us, and like for Dr. Baird, they come to us and they say, can you help us with our sales? And particularly because a lot of our customers may have early e-learning and sales systems, or some of those customers don't have e-learning at all. Some of them don't have a sales system. So we're in a unique position with our customizable courseware product to help solve those problems for those customers. Why would we choose the Griffin Hill system? Well, the table stakes are, it has to be proven, has to be repeatable, has to be scalable. I share just enough of Dr. Baird's human performance background and understanding in performance improvement and organizational performance support to know that if we're going to sell something for our customers that's really going to be effective and really going to work, we have to change behavior. And we have to change it in a measurable way. We have to get at the heart of what's going on. So as Dr. Scott says about tips and tricks, they make people feel good and you see a bump, but it doesn't last. We need to get the real deal. So in looking at this system, I said, does it tick all the boxes? Are the basics there? Yes, it was. So right off the bat, that made Griffin Hill a contender for customizable courseware for our partner. Beyond that, it had to be a system that, because this is customizable courseware, it had to work along the wide range of product offerings and solutions that our customers were going to have to be able to sell. If they are selling a tool or a widget or something tangible or something intangible, a product or service, the system that we made customizable courseware had to be able to fit in that box. Yes, this one ticks that box. And lastly, it is, after all, customizable courseware. So it needed to be modular enough and to give us the ability that we could give it to a customer and say, no matter what your current sales process is, you can adapt this or as it is out of the box, or you can adapt it to whatever you're currently doing. And we give you the source so you can do that. So it literally ticked all the boxes. That's why we're here today.
Sounds like a match made in heaven.
Yes, sir. Or a match made at eLearning Brothers.
What's not to like about the brilliance and experience of Chris, who has been in industry and understands human performance technology, but is a master of customizable courseware and instructional development. Awesome.
Dr. Baird, you had mentioned systems. Would you mind explaining what that means for sales, what systems mean for sales?
Yeah, one of the things that we have discovered, Andrew, is that if you're any system for human performance has to have 4 elements. There has to be a process. So Chris just talked about the modular nature of it. You have to be able to take whatever the big problem is and break it down into its component parts. And those component parts become process, and they also become the modules that mark behavioral change. So if we're going to have a system for human performance, the first thing that it has to have is a process. The second thing is that there have to be, we talk about it in terms of plays, but there have to be sub-behavior mechanisms that stack the odds of success in your favor at every stage of process. So for me, I'm sorry that this is just the old football jock in me. It's like a football field. You know, you've got 4 downs to get a first down. And at different places on the field, you have different kinds of plays that stack the odds of success in your favor of accomplishing that objective. That's exactly what plays do in human performance systems. So there's a process. There are plays that stack the odds of success in your favor at each stage of process. Number 3, you've got to have a measurement mechanism. You've got to have a way to measure so that you really get behavioral change, as Chris described. And then number 4, it's got to have a coaching mechanism. And that's where all these great instructional leaders inside these organizations come into play. They become part of the team to affect change. Process, plays, metrics, and coaching.
So those are 4 of the system, 4 of the building blocks for the system. Can you tell us more about process and plays in regards to sales? So it makes sense that there are plays in sports that help to organize and help to achieve the goal to win. How does that apply to sales?
You know, Andrew, I love the audience that you've assembled here today because it allows me to speak a little bit of geek speak. The science geek in me is want to come out here. One of the things that we knew in the creation of a system is that the research done by Dr. Bill Miller as early as 1939 helped us to understand some things about human cognition. Bill Miller wrote this wonderful paper on the magic number 7, plus or minus 2. And what he taught us is that the human mind can only hold in its working memory 7 objects, plus or minus 2, to cover the range of human capacity. That means our human capacity range to think about objects or to hold them in memory is 5 to 9. That's it. That means for me, I have 6 children, and I've got low capacity. I can only keep track of 5 at any one time. My wife is stuck with the higher end range of the system. But that's what we knew about process, is that it was probably, as we did our scientific research, it was probably 5 or fewer steps that the science would unfold as the right number of steps in process. Turns out that the research gave us 6 steps, but 2 of them are really kind of held in reserve, only if it's a very complex selling system. So it becomes a bit of an accordion. Those steps are really simple. This is the simplest way to parse the problem of how do you get a sale. Number 1, you've got to have a case open routine. You've got to initiate engagement. Number 2, you've got to do needs audit. You've got to understand the needs of the suspect or the prospect before you, number 3, offer solutions. Well, then you have the 2 accordion steps. You have adapted solution for adjustments from stage 1, or closing interactions if it's a very complex setting. Other than that, those two go away, and you've got case open, needs audit, solution presentation, and then you've got to deliver. Sometimes salespeople forget that. I close it, I'm done, these people are no longer my friends, I don't care about them anymore, I'm off to the next opportunity and deal. And everything we learned from buyers particularly is they eschew sellers who behave in that way. They expect sellers to deliver what they promised and to follow up with them to make sure that they continue to get the results. So that's the process. Simplest way to parse the problem, how do you get a sale? Case open, needs audit, solution presentation, adapted solution and closing interaction, fulfillment and follow-up. That's what we mean by process. And those are essentially the modules, well, along with the plays. So many of the modules that Chris is working with is we're going to take one of those plays and focus on the skill development and the behaviors associated with those plays to get the results we're looking for. Chris, anything you wanted to add to that notion of process?
No, I guess, you know, the thing is, it's like when this is why your system, the Griffin Hill system, is so perfect for the customizable courseware model. Because we were able to take it and break it down, and we didn't want to take it and just create a, it wasn't enough to just say, this is a reference to the Griffin Hill system, and these are the 6 plays, I'm sorry, the 6 routines of the Griffin Hill system, and each routine is comprised of these plays. We needed to be able to take this and turn it into something where there's practice and feedback, where we've taken, when you do a training or a consultation, one of the things I always look for is, can we take the exemplar out of the classroom or off the floor, out of the sales field, and bring them into the learning? So, Dr. Baird, we took a lot of the writing exercises that you do when you're consulting and giving a classroom experience, and we baked those into appropriate places into the learning. We took a lot of the we divided the system into 11 modules. The 11 modules, some of them are a direct correlation or a direct tie to the names of the steps in the process, and then other ones build on the individual plays within those steps, so we can provide the practice and feedback. And at the end of the day, the big thing is that we didn't want to focus on, as your system doesn't, trying to give people a script or something fake or phony. You talk about the integrity of your system, and the integrity of the system is the way it not just the proven background and what's behind it, but we're building the integrity of the salesperson. If you make a promise, you're going to fulfill the promise. In fact, that's how you fill your pipeline, because we teach in the system that if somebody doesn't give you permission to proceed, or you don't have a scheduled follow-up with them, they aren't really a true prospect. They shouldn't be in your pipeline. So all of that comes together and supports the process, and all of that fits so well into a customizable courseware format where the basics and the framework and the science are there, but the individual organizations and their salespeople can make it their own.
You know, Chris, I love the way you describe that, because this is what people get out of an eLearning Brother course as a result. Number one, they get salespeople who are more knowledgeable about process and plays and the science and the psychology than ever before. It's baked into your course as it's baked into the system, and you've done such a nice job of preserving it. So the first thing they get is more knowledgeable salespeople. The second thing they get is they get higher performing salespeople. What we know in our system is that it helps people to outperform people of equal ability and experience. A perfect example of that is our recent experience with iHeartMedia. iHeartMedia, in the very first year, outperformed their competitors by 325%. That's what everybody who gets the Griffin Hill Sales System through eLearning Brothers gets because of your great work, Chris. They get knowledgeable salespeople who can outperform their peers of equal ability because they have a system. So I love what you're doing with it. Awesome.
Thank you, both of you, for your thoughts on that. Dr. Baird, what's different about the Griffin Hill metrics? We haven't gone into that very much. What is different about the Griffin Hill metrics as opposed to other metrics?
Andrew, I love this question because everybody in your audience today will recognize the reality of how they measure sales today. Everybody measures the same things. They measure number of contact, number of attempts, number of contacts, talk time. They measure all of those kind of things. They measure number of closes and amount of close, revenue generated. Here's the problem with that. Those are leading indicators, number of attempts, number of contacts, talk time. That's a leading indicator. It has nothing to do with the actual process. It says, can you get into the process? But it doesn't measure the process. Number of closes and amount of revenue, that's a result of the sales process. But no one knows how to measure what goes on in between. Well, your audience is all about instructional development, design, and implementation. And what they know is you've got to teach people the how to be successful in the task. And nothing about metrics in sales measures the actual sales process. And so that's very unique to Griffin Hill. We just talked about these 6 steps of process. What we now know is the #1 correlate with closes is something nobody else even knows how to measure. And that is the frequency with which a salesperson advances the sale. Well, what does that mean? Nobody even knows what that means because they don't have process in the way we have process. But how many times does a salespeople advance a sale from case open to needs audit, or from needs audit to solution presentation, or from solution to adapted solution to closing interaction, etc.? The #1 correlate with closes is how frequently a salesperson advances a case. Exactly as we just described earlier. How frequently do they get first downs? How many plays do they run during the course of a game? If I, as a team, run 100 plays and my competitors only run 50 plays, I win. That's exactly what we now can measure in the Griffin Hill Sales System. Second correlate with closes is number of active cases in the pipeline. So I frequently do this, Andrew. I ask groups of people, think about your named account list. Think about all the people you want to talk to. Think about who's on your dial card. Tell me how many people are actually in your pipeline. And I get these wild ranges, between 50 and 500 or 5,000. And then I say, okay, that's great. Now, by this standard, you've got a next scheduled appointment. How many people in your pipeline? And all of a sudden 5,000 becomes 100 and 500 becomes 50. And then I ask them this question. Okay, when I say next scheduled appointment, here's the standard. Time, date, place, certain. Purpose, mutually understood. In other words, if you said, I'll call you back sometime next week, or even if you said, I'll call you Tuesday morning, that doesn't count. Time, date, place, certain. Purpose, mutually understood. I'll call you Tuesday morning at your phone number in your office, and this is the number I have, and I'll call you at 10:30 on Tuesday morning, and together we'll talk about your goals and your priorities. By that standard, how many are in your pipeline? And now the most predominant answer is 0. That's shocking, but real. And that is the second correlate with closes. They don't even have people in the pipeline, let alone advancing the pipeline. And that's one of the reasons why we're going to help buyers of the eLearning Brothers system to elevate performance results, because it changes behavior. It changes their behavior to doing things that are actually effective to advance the sale. Okay, sorry, I get a little carried away, but you start to see the power of metrics here and what Chris is doing to empower learners using eLearning Brothers technology in the Griffin Hill Sales System.
Do you have thoughts about those metrics, Chris?
I love this system. When I was an entrepreneur and I had salespeople myself, and even working to help support our internal people at eLearning Brothers, and we would come up with things like, I knew it instinctively, the number of touch points that you have, increasing the number of touch points. There's a lot of noise out there, right? And so I knew instinctively that if you find an article or something and you share it with that person, or if we do a webinar or we do things, but I didn't at that time, even with all the other processes that I've worked with, the sales methodologies, consultative selling, and the other ones I work with, I didn't have a specific system of organization that would say, at this point in the process, this is the type of interaction that is appropriate to advance the sale to the next step. So it isn't just, I will follow up with you in a, when can I call? I'll follow up with you in a week, or I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Friday morning. I'll just swing by. And then you find out they're not even in the office. So this is just, once you see it, once you learn the system, yes, it makes common sense. It's so natural. We bust the myth of the natural-born salesperson. Somebody like my husband, who is an introvert, he can follow the system in a way that's natural for him, and it's all about learning and following the process and making it your own. And then it is measurable. It's tangible, it's measurable, it's repeatable, it's scalable. All of those things. It just makes sense.
Chris, I love your description here and your invocation of other things that you've seen. We actually did find some people who have a sales system. But this is what we also learned about salespeople utilizing that system. These systems have flow charts and arrows, and you do this, and then you go over here, and then you put it in the magic box, and it flows over to you. And they were so confusing and complex that salespeople universally eschewed them. They did not use them. They were taught them. They knew what their manager expected them to do, but no salesperson actually used them. Back to that Bill Miller research, because they were far too complex. They simply couldn't follow it, and it didn't make sense in the normal interaction with human beings. That's why when we talk about field research and buyer research, but the scientific research of how do people think? How do people drink in information? How do they process information? How do they make decisions about that information? And how do they act on that information? That scientific research is profound, and it's baked into the system, so that, as Chris described it, doesn't matter if I'm an introvert or an extrovert, there's a natural pacing of how this flows for me as a salesperson. And it works for no matter what the personality type of the buyer is on the other side. It's all about the science of how people process information, decide about it, and act on it. So the fact that Chris refers to dispelling the myth of the natural-born salesperson is what this is all about. It's highly teachable, it's highly learnable, and the behaviors that affect results are baked into the system. And that's why it elevates results.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about how customizable courseware is integrating the system into itself? We've heard about a lot of the metrics, the process, the plays. There's a coaching aspect. How does that play into customizable courseware?
So we have divided the Griffin Hill system into 11 modules. Again, some of them tie directly to the process and teaching the process. Some of them tie to the plays within the process. And if you think of a play, think about a outline for behaviors that you're going to want to do, and some examples that you can take and correlate to what it is you need to sell and what it is you're presenting. And you'll see in a scenario, for example, how that conversation, how that play would carry out in one circumstance, and then have an opportunity to do a little bit of reflection and do some typing in and capture how you would project that into your circumstance, so that when you are out doing it out in the field, you can bring that up and have that in your playbook, so to speak, to call from later. We can take these modules and set them up to the process, chunk them out, so that when the salesperson is out in the field, in that context, they have what they need to pull from to be able to know what exactly they should be doing next, and then to apply it in a way that's natural to them. And it just flowed right into the customizable courseware format quite easily. So yeah, that's really what we do. And we give you the order to do things. We give you the background behind it. We give you a lot of quotes in the field from Dr. Baird and his son Cameron, who are the lead consultants in the system. So from that standpoint, you get a little bit of a taste of as if you invited them into your organization. And then, of course, once your salespeople have taken the training, if you literally want to invite them into your organization, you can do that as well. So,
Chris, I really love the point that you make about, as they go through these exercises, they're building a playbook based on principles. Exactly. Two places they're building that playbook. By virtue of the instruction and the exercises, they're building a playbook in their mind, and they're building a reference to that playbook that they can go back to at any point. And because of the exercises that you design, it becomes part of them. It becomes ingrained in them. It becomes part of the pattern and knowledge and skill set that is in every cell of their body because of the nature of the instruction that you develop. I love what you're doing with it.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of benefit to having the digital medium that customizable courseware is, that allows us to take those principles mentally and also via the digital medium to be able to create a physical playbook while we're working through these courses. They're really, really cool. So as a takeaway, what advice, what should an internal sales manager, training designer, or developer do? What should they take away from this interview and know they should do now that they have the knowledge about the customizable courseware and the sales system? Chris, do you want to take that question first?
Yeah, so what I encourage a salesperson to do is to contact one of the eLearning Brothers sales consultants. We can show you under the hood what's in the customizable courseware, and they're going to see that it's built in the 3 most popular e-learning development tools in Lectora Storyline and in Adobe Captivate, and also the instructor-led training, the guides and the slides. So if somebody wants to deliver as a webinar any portion, any module, as a refresher, say you have an annual sales event and there's certain an area, you could use it for like an overview, you could use it for breakout sessions, or you could teach the entire model. You have all those resources available to you. So contact an eLearning Brothers sales associate, a sales consultant, who can open up behind the hood a little bit and give you a sneak peek. And then you can see how the system is customizable for you and how we can make it work for you. Dr.
Chris,
Baird?
what's the contact information? Are you posting that, Andrew, so people can make that contact easily? Because I'm with Chris. I think it's important for every person, every organization out there to make an informed, studied choice. And if you'll make an informed and studied choice, I have no doubt that you will select eLearning Brothers and the Griffin Hill Sales System, because there is nothing to equal it. Well, look, let me give you a perfect example. This is exactly why Magellan Health, who had us do a training for them, they insure 1 in 10 Americans today. And as they described what we do here in the needs audit routine, for example, where we talk about helping people to discover for themselves, they said, this is gold. This is gold. And that's exactly what this system is. This is an ROI and gold for you. So I'm with Chris. Thank you for posting that, Andrew. Make an informed and studied choice, because I believe that if you will, you'll discover that nothing out there will equal the power of the Griffin Hill Sales System, and that it will empower your team using the eLearning Brothers methodology to be able to get the information to them. It's a great recommendation, Chris.
Thank you so much. To echo Dr. Baird, we do want you to make a very informed decision, and so we don't try to blind, hand all of this over to you without showing you what exactly you're getting. So we're giving you these webinars to give you an idea of what is there. As you can see on the screen, you can schedule a demo and take a look at it and walk through some of these courses with us and see exactly what you're getting. You can call that number on the screen, or you can send an email to info@elearningbrothers.com, or you can go to elearningbrothers.com and click on Customizable Courseware, and you'll be able to see our soft skills library and our sales system library. So you can really dig around and take a look at that. Also, one other thing I wanted to add is we're also going to send you an email in the next few hours, pretty soon actually, and you'll get links to that sales system. You'll get links to some information, more information about it, a one sheet that'll be useful for you. Chris, did you have something?
I was just going to say, sales managers who are listening, when you call this number, you're going to talk to an eLearning Brothers sales consultant. Ask them how they feel about the Griffin Hill Sales System. This is the system that we are bringing in to our own organization because it works, because it's natural, because it's not a hard sell, fake sell. It's because we want our eLearning Brothers sales consultants to be consultative and to help guide you to make good choices. So this is precisely the system we've adopted. Talk salesperson to salesperson about their impressions, and they'll talk to you. We'll be happy to talk to you.
As you do so, I invite you to do this one thing. Ask them, and because we just barely engaged this course with them, ask them one thing that they learned in their very first coaching session.
Oh no, did we lose Dr. Baird? Sometimes that's how it goes.
So that's okay too. Ask the one thing, and we will wait and see what they say.
Dr.
Baird, I apologize. We've lost you digitally, but
that
do
blew them away. Ask them that, and I think you'll.
Great. Thank you, both of you, for joining us today. Thank you, audience members, for coming in. We hope this was a useful and informative webinar. If you have questions, call that number, send an email, and we'll reach out to you. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.